All right. So what Google Drawings is a tool to help teachers and students create more visual products than a Google Doc. Unlike a Google Slides, it's only one frame instead of a whole series of frames. So for a lot of students, it's better for making posters. It's a lot more manageable of a space than a Slides, which can be very overwhelming. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then get us started with how to start Google Drawings. So the first thing is accessing Google Drawings. There's two ways to do it. You can go to your drive, and then whatever folder you're in your drive, you can just go to New, and then More, and then Google Drawings, and open up a brand new Google Drawing. This way is nice from inside your drive because then it will put the drawing in whatever folder you're currently on. So that's nice for organizing if you can plan ahead. If not, that's okay too. The other way to access Google Drawing is to open up a new tab and go to drawings.google.com. And then that will also save it to your drive automatically, just like any other Google product. Drawings save to your drive automatically. But then this is nice for just starting it fresh and not having to find wherever your drive is saved. A drawing looks like this when you open it up blank. The part that you draw on is right in the middle here. If you can see, it's got a little bit of a checkerboard background. That's actually for a reason. Those checkerboards mean that right now this is transparent. So if you leave your drawing with a transparent background, you can actually save your file with the transparent background. This is great for if you wanted to create like badges for your school. The tools are up at the top here. They're pretty simple tools, but it's kind of amazing what you can get out of a drawing with a little bit of time and effort. So we've got our line tool, shape tool, text box, and images. So that's really it. You can insert a chart. This is a more advanced thing. You have to have some knowledge of Google Sheets also to use the charts. You can insert a diagram. These are great for if you're creating graphic organizers. I'll get to those in a minute. And you can create word art. And word art is not quite as fun as the word art of my youth, where there were all sorts of fonts and wavy lines and all that fun stuff. But word art is great for students to create big blocky letters if they want to. So what I like to do first when I start a drawing is give it a title. And I'm going to call this one Practice Graphic Organizer. The next thing I like to do is think about the size of my drawing. You can actually click and drag these little lines down at the bottom to automatically size it. So, you know, if you're just doing something quick and it doesn't really matter, but you want it to be square, you can do it that way. The only problem is with clicking and dragging it is that the sizes are, you know, eyeballing it. And so for printing's sake, this may not be your best bet. I like to actually make sure that my pages are printable. So I go to File and then Page Setup. Right now it's on Custom because I clicked and dragged it. The standard is 4 by 3, 4 inches by 3 inches. So that's, you know, vaguely rectangular. You can also go to Custom and then actually enter a size. I like to do 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. And then you've got a piece of paper and that makes it easy to print. So just go to Custom and then type in 8.5 by 11. And now it looks like a piece of paper. It's fit to screen right now. You can zoom in with this little plus magnifying glass if you want to zoom in so it looks more like a Word document, a little bit larger, easier to see. One of my issues that I find with students who use it at this size is that they will use gigantic font because they can't see it because it's teeny tiny here, but then you print it and it's literally huge because think about a size of paper versus the size of their little Chromebook screens. So it's up to you how you want to view it. Go back to my arrow. You can add a background. So if you don't want this to be transparent, if you want this to be a graphic organizer for printing, you can right click, go to background, and then choose white. and now it would print like a piece of paper and be white. If you're making posters for sharing online, digital presentations, you can choose a background and choose all sorts of fun colors. You can create a custom color. This is where students get in trouble. They'll choose a gradient and then they'll go crazy. So gradients are really fun because they're beautiful. Look how fancy that looks already. But what they'll do, because I've seen it happen, is they'll create a custom gradient. They will add colors. Let me just show you how insane this could look if we add too many colors. It's overwhelming, it's psychedelic. That's what kids like to do. So just make sure that when you're teaching them how to do backgrounds, that you make sure that students are picking backgrounds that are going to not drive you crazy, not get in the way of understanding the content. All right, I'm gonna choose light yellow because that's nice, that's soothing. The next thing, once you've got your background, is you can think about the layers of images and text. The nice thing about a drawing versus a Google Doc is that everything is free floating on top of here. So you can organize it how you want and you can actually layer things. So let's say I wanted to have an image in the background. Let's go to search the web. You can actually find an image that's saved to your drive, your photos, your camera. You can take a picture. This is great if you wanted students to do an About Me poster where they could take a picture of themselves and then decorate it. You know what? Let's do that. That sounds like more fun. I'm going to change this title, because that sounds like a great assignment. So I'm going to, usually you can search the web and find an image. You can go to your drive and find an image that's saved. But look how fun this is with the camera. This is something that would be really great with students. Okay, so you have them take a picture and then you can insert it. And then just like any image, they can move it, they can expand it or decrease it. It's really important when students, they always do this, they want their picture to be square, so they drag the corner in to make it square. And now it looks ridiculous because they've changed the aspect ratio. So what you need to teach students to do is, there's a back arrow, undo it if you mess it up, is instead of dragging it by the sides to change it, always drag it by the corner to change the shape or the size of the picture. If you want to change the picture and make it square, then you have to double click on the picture to pull up the crop buttons. Now those black lines there, that's for cropping. And so now I can drag in the sides a little bit and make my picture more square that way. Some other things you can do for images is if you right click on it, you can center it on the page, either vertically or horizontally. That automatically puts it in the right spot. If you have kiddos who struggle with putting things in an organized way. You can also right click and rotate it. This is great if you want to teach them about angles or if you want to flip a picture. This is fun because, now I'm upside down. We can undo that. You can rotate it and flip it the other way. And so that's kind of nice because this is how you actually look, and it would, if kids had background font behind them, you know how pictures reverse everything, this would reverse it back so you could actually read the words behind them. You can also use this little button at the top here, the little round button, and click and drag it to angle it just a little bit in whatever direction you want. So maybe they wanted to make a fun poster. Did you see that little red line that popped up? That tells me whether I'm lined up on the page. So right now I've got two little red lines. That means this was now dead center, even though my picture is angled. And then if I use that little button at the top, it actually gives you the degrees, so we can go to 0. So you could involve math lessons and doing angles with images. So this is a great way to do a cross-curricular activity. Maybe they're making a poster about something, but you can remind them about angles and bring in that little piece of math while you're at it. Some other options you can do when you are looking at images, there's the crop button here. You can delete it, of course. You can copy it if you wanted to have two pictures of the same thing. You can also, on the image, go here to the format options. And then this is where you can do some of the really fun stuff. You can recolor pictures. So if you wanted, a lot of them are terrible. These aren't great choices, but they could turn their picture black and white. That looks really nice. They don't quite have all of the filters like Snapchat or Instagram do, but you could have it be sepia if you wanted it to look old. And if you wanted to look like an alien, you could. You can also choose no recolor. For adjustments, especially if they're taking selfies at home, this also works on any picture you find on the internet. You can change the brightness and contrast. So maybe you want to make it just a little bit brighter and increase the contrast. See, when you decrease the contrast, it goes grayer. When you increase the contrast, you look like crazy. But you can use those adjustments to edit the image just a little bit. The image editing here is nowhere near as good as if you had Photoshop or some sort of real photo tool, but it's nice for little adjustments to make it look a little nicer. Transparency would set it so it's transparent. This is great if you're creating a multi-layered poster. You can use a drop shadow. These are nice because it just makes the picture pop off the page. So let's do a little bit darker of a drop shadow and a little bit bigger of a drop shadow. And then I'm going to change the angle. Where do I want it? I want it right there. And then we'll blur it out a little bit more. So now when I look at my picture, look at that. It looks like it's popping off the page. Kids love doing that because it's like, it makes it automatically look fancier without actually doing a whole lot. The last thing you can do is a reflection. I wouldn't recommend that most of the time because now it looks like you're in a pond. So you can just turn that off. So those are all the image tools you can use on Google Drawings. You can have as many images as you want. You can have kids create collages. If you wanted to do an About Me poster, and let's say I want to include some more images, and now I'm going to search the web for my favorite things. So let's say my favorite things are, you're going to learn a lot about me today. I love elephants. So I'm going to take my favorite picture of elephants from the internet. The nice thing about this Google search is that you can click on more than one picture and insert them both at once. They all stack up in the middle. Oh no, they stacked up like that. And look, they have the same formatting. So these have their drop shadow also, which may or may not work. So it automatically pulled over the formatting. All of the Google image searches are also safe photos, meaning that they are copyright approved. So they're not going to get in any copyright issue. They're not going to be able to look up anything naughty that you don't want them looking up. I can take an individual picture now and I'll shrink it down to size. And I will rotate it so it looks fancy. Let's do one more. Rotate it this way. Look how fun that looks. We've got a nice little poster going. So you can have students stack as many posters as you want. I don't know if you noticed this, but this one actually went on top of that picture. You can actually right-click on a picture and then order and bring it to the front. And that's going to push one item on top of the other. So you can decide how you want to arrange your items and which image or text to go on top. So you can have as many images as you want. You can actually have them go off the page. This corner is now going to be cut off when it's printed, but that's okay because that still looks nice. Then it looks like an actual collage that you cut out of paper. All right. Images is a great place to start. You can also start with text. The nice thing about having a text box is you can put it wherever you want. It can go on top of images, and you can create as many text boxes as you need. So I usually like to have one for a title, and then I'm going to make this font bigger so you can see it. Let's do 30, whatever. And then once you've got your text, just like on a Google Doc or a slideshow, you can change the font. Let's try that one. No, that looks terrible. You can add more fonts with this More Fonts button, just like on a Google Doc or a slideshow. Doesn't really matter. You can increase the font size this way or by typing in the number. You can bold it. You can color the text. Let's do that dark red. And you can even highlight it. So just like a Google Doc, all the text buttons work the same. You can add as many text boxes as you want. You can change the font size and everything, just like anything else. They can also, as you can see, it can go on top of the image. You just have to be careful if you do that, that it's still readable. So that's a nice thing to talk to your students about. Things like having high contrast. You want light on dark or dark on light. If I put this name on top of my face, you couldn't really read it because there's light and dark happening all at the same time. So it's really great for all of these types of posters, creating graphic organizers. You can add shapes. Shapes is a really great way to create graphic organizers. You could create your own Venn diagram that you would want to print maybe, or have them fill out online. You could create a plot diagram, any sort of graphic organizer that you see in your textbook or create in class. You could make on a drawing and then share with your students, print it, or assign it digitally. The callouts are fun. You can actually maybe have them do a little speech bubble on top of themselves. I'm going to flip this one. There we go. They all come up as blue. Every single shape is going to come up as that light blue. So what you can do is recolor it or have it be transparent if you want it to be see-through. I'm going to make that one light gray. I'm going to make the border red so it matches. I'm going to make the border thicker. And I'm going to make the border be a dashed line just so it's fun. Once you've got your shape, just like a text box, you double click and then you can type in it. Because that's the poster that kids would make. They would say, "Hi, I love school," right? That's what all kids think. And then the shapes, you can kind of see I can go really big and really fill in that space, or they could write more to fill in that space. So shapes work like text boxes. They can just be in any of these amazing shapes. We've got all sorts of fun shapes that you can do. Arrows are great if you wanted to create a flow map graphic organizer. Students could put images from a story and then have arrows showing from first, next, last. So you can really see how these shapes could be used in a variety of ways. Creating stars, these would be fun if you wanted to create badges, maybe have like a best attendance for the week badge or read the most books badge. And then the equation signs here, you could even show them math problems with the simple equations. They don't have the more advanced math, but those are fun. All right, the last tool is the line tool. There are all sorts of lines you could draw. The arrows are nice because you can just start and then where you end is where the arrow goes. And then just like the shape tool, you can increase the thickness and change the color of your arrows. You can even have them be dashed, but that looks kind of, that's weird. That might work. The connectors, the curved connectors and the elbow connectors, those are again great for showing connections between ideas. So you could have students do images and then connect them together. You could create a graphic organizer for your students with that. The polyline is for making a freeform polygon shape of your choice. So if you've got a specific shape that you want, oh, and it's just going to keep going. That one just did a line. If there's ever anything you don't like, you go, nope, I don't want that polygon shape anymore. You can just click on it and then delete it. And then the last fun one is the Scribble Tool. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can get rid of my face. Nobody needs to see me that much. There we go. All right, so I'm on the Scribble Tool here. This is freeform writing. So you could have students use a Google Drawing to show their work on a math problem. If they have Chromebooks that don't have a mouse attached, using the mouse pad can be a little hard for students. So I'm just going to warn you now that that might be hard. But the Scribble Tool can also be really great for you as an adult because you can create a drawing with your signature on it and then sign things online without having to drive all the way to HR. So how the Scribble tool works is I'm on the Scribble tool, and then I'm just going to free write with it. So I can show, oops, it's in the text box. I'm going to show my work. That one didn't show up for some reason. It doesn't like to do very straight lines. There we go. Four plus 4 equals 8. And I'm doing this with my mouse pad. So you can kind of see it's not the best handwriting. It's not the easiest, but this would be great for students to show their work from a distance. And then depending on how good you are as an adult with your mouse pad, you can do your signature. My signature is very easy because I am lazy. There's my first name. Woo. A little harder to do cursive. There we go. That's actually not that much worse than my actual handwriting. So now I've got my signature there. So that Scribble tool can be really helpful depending on what you want to do with your students or for yourself personally. If you are going to create a signature, you can go back to the arrow here. I did all this in black. I can actually change it to the red font so that I can sign my documents for HR and they won't yell at me for using black ink. Isn't that a nice workaround for driving all the way out there? So, and you can see with the Scribble tool that each piece is individual. So that's kind of a pain. If you wanted your students to use a different color up front, tell them to use a different color up front. Nobody wants to go back and rechange all the colors every time. But, you know, then they could sign their work and they could create their own little personal stamps. So those are all the really basic tools for Google Drawings. There's a lot more that you can do with it once you get creative and your students really get into it. Yeah, and there's a lot of similarities between this and Jamboard. Yeah. Okay, so let me just show you how to save it and how to assign it to Classroom.
I think the thing that will help is when they're writing an essay on Google Docs, then they could just add a picture in there or add some, you know, visuals or whatever to go along with it. I think they're really going to like that part.
Yeah, you can even, you know, have them draw a picture or they can edit an image or scribble over an image so they could, you know, edit it that way. Comic strips, it's a great way to create comic strips. So yeah, adding them to Google Docs, that's really fun. All right, so let me just show you how to save it and how to assign it to Classroom, and then that's it. Those are the basics. So, all right, so now that you've got your created poster ready to go, it's already saved, but you might want to download it in order to share it. The different ways to download it that are easiest to share with students are either a PDF, because that can open on anything. So if you wanted to create like a back to school flyer for parents, I would save it as a PDF because they're probably going to open their email on their phone and then they can view it as a PDF. If you download it as a JPEG, that saves it as an image. And so that's great for adding it to a slide deck or a Google Doc essay. The PNG saves it as an image that is transparent. So if you created like a badge, like we've used these for creating badges, that PNG makes sure that your background with the checkerboards remains transparent. Those are the three I use the most. An SVG, that means that you can change the size and make it much larger without reducing quality. And I think that saves the transparency also. So when you download it, it's just going to automatically download to your computer. Mine shows up at the bottom here. Yours might show up in a different place. It is saved to your drive. So just like any other Google Doc or slides, you can move it within the folders. You can share it with an individual. Like you could add a co-teacher on here if you wanted to create a poster for content you're teaching. You can also copy the link here. So I'm going to change this to, oh, well, that's weird. I guess it's because it's my personal drive. That I want students to be a viewer at this point. So I'm going to copy the link and then click done. And now I'm going to go to my classroom. So now let's say this is my example poster that I want to share with students. I'm going to go to my classroom. I'm going to go to my classwork. I'm going to create an assignment. And we'll call this All About Me. And then I'm going to add it from my Google Drive. There we go. And then just like any doc or slideshow that you add to Classroom, students can view the file, edit the file, or you can make a copy for each. So what I like to do is create a graphic organizer on a Google Drawing, then make a copy for each student so that they have their own worksheet of the graphic organizer to fill out. If this was something I just wanted them to view, I could add it as view. You can actually create a drawing straight from here. So that's nice. I think a lot of teachers don't take advantage of Google Drawings because they just don't know what it is, but it's really fun when you get in here and start seeing what's possible. I could create a drawing, a blank one, and just have it ready to go for students so that the attachment is ready. I know especially for our younger students, creating attachments can be hard for them. So let's call this one About Me poster. And so now it's a blank canvas for my students. Here we go. And now I can make a copy for each. So now on this assignment, I've got my blank one for students to work with so that they've got their copy ready to go, their attachment. And then I've got my copy so that they can view an example poster. This is great too for if they need to finish it outside of class, then they've got the example to look at when they're working on it from home. And then just like any other assignment, you would do instructions, due date, topic, and then either assign it, schedule it, or save it as a draft. So that's really about it. There's more tools to explore, but if you're just getting started, this is a great place to get started with Google Drawings.